The fabric of time may be more permeable than we think. Throughout history, mysterious photographs, inexplicable encounters, and technological anomalies have suggested that some individuals, some people, have crossed the boundaries of linear time. From Victorian academics stumbling through temporal rifts to modern internet prophets claiming knowledge of humanity's future. Time itself is the fourth dimension. It is a vast ocean, and some don't wade through it like the rest of us. They skip across time like a stone, defying the current and disappearing into myth. Today's video is about, in my opinion, the most convincing evidence of time travel. You see it all the time. Videos pop up on Reels, TikTok. I am from the future. I am time travel. They predict stuff. It almost never comes true, but there are a few things out there that seemingly cannot be explained. It's incredibly mysterious. Follow me down this little rabbit hole. Peter Bergman, the man who erased himself in June 2009. A man arrived in Sligo, Ireland with the apparent sole purpose of erasing himself completely from existence. Peter Bergman, as he called himself, wasn't trying to change the future. He was methodically ensuring he would have no past before he died. On the evening of June 12, 2009, a tall, slender man with graying hair, perhaps in his 50s or 60s, made his way through the entrance of the Sligo City Hotel. When the thin man spoke, it was with a thick accent that was believed to either have been German or Austrian. He'd arrived by bus and he booked a 3-night stay at the hotel, paid for entirely with cash. Meticulous, he signed the hotel register with the name Peter Bergman. He provided an address, which was Anstatten 154772 Vienna, Austria. The address, investigators would later discover, didn't even exist. There was no home, no building, just a vacant, non-existent lot.
We know from inquiries with the Austrian police that such an address does not exist, nor has it done so for many, many years. It's a vacant lot.
And what followed over the next 4 days after Bergman showed up at that hotel succeeded in baffling investigators for over 16 years. Sligo, Ireland is a town full of surveillance cameras, making navigating the town without being captured on CCTV nearly impossible. But in spite of this, Peter Bergman successfully avoided capture for the majority of his time in the town, only being recorded a few times and for the most part, moving like a specter with purpose. Hotel CCTV, the only CCTV to consistently record him, captured him leaving 13 times, each departure following an identical pattern, carrying a purple plastic bag filled with items, returning empty-handed. Yet, despite extensive searches of bins, gardens, car parks, and the local dump, not a single discarded item from Peter Bergman was ever found. It was as if Peter's belongings had vanished into thin air. Something or anything that could have been used to identify Peter Bergman was being systematically and methodically disposed of by Peter Bergman himself. Peter also displayed an uncanny awareness of blind spots in surveillance. His movements suggested professional level training in evading detection, the kind typically associated with intelligence operatives or covert agents, but even experienced spies tend to leave traces when investigated. Bergman left nothing. The only clues we have are from those few individuals he interacted with, and what trace amounts of footage there are, it's a footage capturing his movements around Sligo, nothing more. On June 13th, he visited the Sligo post office and purchased 8 envelopes as well as stamps, indicating that somewhere out there are perhaps 8 letters he wrote in his final days. And witnesses saw him reading and writing at the bus station days later, even tearing up paper and disposing of the scraps, yet no letters ever surfaced and none of the discarded paper was ever recovered successfully. No one anywhere in the world has ever come forward claiming to have received correspondence from Sligo during that time from Peter Bergman. 8 letters to 8 people who either don't exist or refuse to acknowledge their existence. And on Sunday, June 14th, Bergman took a taxi to Ross's Point Beach, a peninsula with beautiful, amazing views, and he had asked for a nice, quiet beach where he could swim. Though he carried no towel, no swimming gear, and when they arrived, he surveyed the beach briefly, seemed satisfied, and proceeded to enter the taxi and return to the hotel without ever actually stepping onto the beach. Extremely bizarre behavior. We now know that Peter had been choosing the place that he would die. Bergman had chosen his exit point with the same precision he'd applied to everything else, and investigators believed he intended to have his body wash out to sea to complete his erasure, but the tides betrayed him and washed his body back to shore, leaving the one uncontrollable factor to Peter, and that being the one that spawned this entire mystery. His body was found on that beach. The meticulous nature of his desire to be unknown went well beyond normal human dedication. Every label from his clothing had been carefully cut, not torn, but precisely removed with scissors. Police collected any means of identifying Bergman, his fingerprints, his DNA. They circulated it to police forces internationally, but it never turned up any results. This man never existed. What possessions he did have on his person when his body was discovered never provided any clues to his identity, unfortunately, either. And even with the help from the public, the media, the internet, trying to identify him through the hopes that a member of the public may recognize him both at home and abroad in mainland Europe, they never found any answers. Nothing ever came out. It wasn't just that Peter Bergman didn't exist, it was as if he had never existed and nobody had ever known who he was. The autopsy for Peter revealed perhaps the most puzzling aspect of all. The man who'd called himself Peter Bergman was dying. He died of drowning, but he had many other afflictions in his body which must have left him in incredible and constant pain. He had advanced prostate cancer, bone tumors, and evidence of several previous heart attacks. And on his body were 55 aspirin tablets, but toxicology reports showed no drugs or alcohol in his system, not even aspirin. So the lack of any form of painkiller or drug in his system may indicate that he was intentionally avoiding treatment. This detail is terrifying and haunting. A terminally ill man with maybe weeks to live at most, traveling internationally, disposing of his belongings and maintaining a careful facade, all while enduring pain that should have been unbearable and would have been to most people. It suggests either Peter Bergman possessed superhuman willpower or access to pain management techniques that are currently unknown to modern medicine. Because he's a time traveler, that's the implication there. But what followed was a 5-month investigation that expanded internationally. Interpol was notified, databases across Europe and America were searched, media appeals ran in multiple countries. Not one person has ever come forward to identify Peter Bergman. Think about that, it's insane. In our completely interconnected world of social media, facial recognition, and digital footprints, a well-dressed European man with a gold tooth, distinctive appearance, completely vanished, and 16 years of investigation have yielded nothing at all. It's kind of unbelievable. It's very interesting. No missing person report matches, no family searches, no employers wondering where the this guy went, no medical records show treatment for any of his various terminal conditions. This man never existed and didn't want to exist anymore. All these incredibly interesting details along the way have only served to build this legend into something disproportionate from what he would have ever wanted, which I apologize. I realize the fault in what I'm doing currently. I apologize, Peter, but he navigated CCTV blind spots with precision, suggesting either extensive reconnaissance or foreknowledge of camera positions. He crafted a completely fictional identity with untraceable details. He functioned at high levels despite terminal illness and no pain medication, and he made multiple bags full of physical objects disappear without a trace completely in spite of intensive searches. And as of 2025, the case has gone cold and remains in what Detective Inspector Mulderig calls sleep mode, waiting for someone somewhere to move the mouse and bring it back to life. But with each passing year, the likelihood of this happening diminishes, memories fade, potential witnesses pass away, and evidence degrades. There's no trail of this man. He appeared, meticulously dismantled his life, then it ended with no signs that he existed in the first place, like a man out of time with no way of returning to it. So there's many theories, obviously. Could have just been a man who was just super meticulous throughout his entire life, having lived a life not interacting with society. That seems unlikely, but it's possible. He could have also been a time traveler. That's the conspiracy. This man never existed. That is not a conspiracy. He existed. He was clearly alive right then and there, but he didn't exist. And there's no other evidence. It's confusing. Interesting, confusing, tragic as well. At the beginning of the new millennia, between the year 2000 and 2001, the internet's first major time traveler emerged from the digital shadows. His name was John Titor, John Titor. I'm not exactly sure, but he used the handle TimeTravel01. Bit on the nose. He claimed to be a soldier from 2036, sent back to 1975 to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer needed to debug legacy systems that were facing a catastrophic timeout. As a computer guy, this is hilarious. But as a cave-dwelling troglodytic conspiracy theorist, this is convincing. His detour to our era was personal, but during his stop, he wanted to check out the interest in time travel online. He shared his insight and story on the near future on an Anomalies network messaging forum that has been archived from 2001, in other chat rooms from 2000, as well as in archived faxes that he reportedly sent in the late 90s. This dude was really wanted to get his message out there. Now, one thing that has to be acknowledged, Jon's technical knowledge was disturbingly precise. He accurately described the IBM 5100's hidden ability to emulate mainframe systems, a feature that IBM had deliberately kept secret and wasn't publicly confirmed until around 2000, conveniently when Jon began posting on forums. Very suspicious. He even referred to a Unix timeout error that resulted in a technological collapse in 2038, but he was sent back to 1975 to prevent it in 2036. And the Unix timeout is a very real issue that systems could face if computers still count time in seconds, and if not remedied on January 19th, 2038, operating systems and software running 32-bit could malfunction. This is a real, genuine thing. Very easy to fix, but real and genuine. And his C204 time displacement unit, manufactured by General Electric, and his timeline operated on principles of micro-singularity manipulation that aligned eerily with acknowledged theoretical physics. He posted detailed schematics, operating procedures, and safety protocols that demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of both engineering and temporal mechanics, at least based on our understanding. And his explanation of time travel suggests the multiple worlds theory to be the correct theory for our reality. And with every jump through time, a new world is created, so you can't influence your future, which is why there's no chance of a paradox being created and he could interact with people from the past and share knowledge like he was doing, which to me that makes the most sense of, the whole butterfly bullshit, nonsense, or whatever. I don't know, it doesn't make sense. Like, the simulation thing makes the most sense. You're just creating different save games, if you will. So Jon came from a future of societal collapse and rebuilding and warned us of what was to come. His predictions included a new American Civil War in 2005, which didn't happen, and also Russia launching a nuclear strike against major American cities in 2015, which also, as far as I'm aware, didn't happen. That is what happened in his timeline, in his past, and at that point in our future. So obviously these predictions failed to materialize, or maybe they did. Titor himself invoked the many worlds interpretation, claiming his presence created a new timeline with roughly 2.5% divergence, meaning with every new world created, it was roughly 2.5% different from the previous one, and perhaps this 2.5% divergence prevented the 2005 US Civil War from coming to fruition, and thusly preventing the United States from being in a weakened state to embolden Russia to launch a nuclear strike in 2015. Now, you could say he was just wrong, or you could say his warnings may have succeeded in their purpose, which steered us away from a dark future. When a weasel chewed its way into one of the electrical transformers of the Large Hadron Collider, it sent reality into a freefall, landing us in the weasel timeline. But that doesn't line up, since that was in 2016, 11 years after the supposed Second American Civil War. So I'm not exactly sure. We were also supposed to get nuked by Russia before the weasel timeline. So maybe we're in 3 or 4 different timelines. There's just all this divergence. It's entirely possible that the John Titor story could have been an elaborate but well-informed hoax from someone seeking to provoke a reaction by stirring up conspiracy theories online. It's very fun to do that, I have to admit. Whoever John Titor is, they are a relatively intelligent person. That much is inarguable. They detailed features of long, out-of-date computer systems that weren't known outside of small circles familiar with their development. It's perfectly possible that he worked at IBM and was just a regular-ass guy, but in the forum posts, many people challenged the assertion that Jon is a time traveler with various thought experiments and questions to challenge his knowledge of our time. Which, of course, with the caveat that if his answers are wrong, it could be justified under the 2.5% world divergence, or he just gives a reason why he won't, can't, or shouldn't answer. So pretty convenient. So far, he didn't predict shit. And yeah, kind of a loser, to be honest, but very interesting nonetheless. Additionally, the Titor case took a strange turn when the investigations traced connections to the Haber family of Florida. Larry Haber became CEO of the John Titor Foundation in 2003, and posts made by Titor in chat rooms share that he comes from the same geographic area as Larry. And some comparisons have been made of John Titor's writing style to that of Larry Haber's brother Maury, with Maury even responding to a video denying his involvement, but alleging that there would be consequences if activity like this continued. Some of the language that was compared as being consistent between John and Maury are very common phrases, so it's not what I would exactly call a compelling piece of evidence that they could potentially be the same, but I'm not sure. No one has definitively claimed authorship of John Titor's writings. The mystery endures because Titor created something more than just a hoax. He crafted a mythology that continues to influence contemporary conspiracy culture. He's a legend amongst the troglodytes. This is Frankie, my dog, my best friend, and the healthiest pug in the entire world. One of the reasons she's so healthy is because of today's sponsor, Sundays for Dogs. This is Petey. Petey is also very healthy, but a little bit more picky than Frankie. And being a busy adult man with like 3 or 4 full-time jobs, it's difficult to give my dogs the care, attention, and food that they absolutely need unequivocally. I've tried everything from frozen food to cooking food myself, and I've settled on Sundays for Dogs once again for both of my beautiful pups. Sundays is real food that happens to be for dogs that's made with human-grade meats, organs, and superfoods. It's also vet formulated, made in the USA, and shelf stable. I can just pour it directly into their bowls and watch them enjoy. There's no mess and absolutely no stress. It is very easy. You'll get 50% off your first order when you use code OOMPA. You can click the link in the description, or you can go to sundaysfordogs.com/Oompa. Thank you to Sundays for sponsoring this video, and thank you to Sundays for making my puppies very happy and healthy. Charlie Chaplin began his comedy captured on film in 1914, but in 1928, he would capture something totally out of the ordinary for the very first time. The Circus, the latest masterpiece from the legend Charlie Chaplin and his funny little mustache, was poised to be an overwhelming success. The Hollywood premiere was a spectacle in its own right, and it attracted crowds of eager viewers. The air buzzed with anticipation as everyone who was anyone clamored to witness the newest creation from the genius who revolutionized on-screen comedy. He's kind of like me. Not really. It's really, that was supposed to be ironic, sarcastic, and stuff. I was supposed to be Cameras captured the entire event, immortalizing the electric atmosphere and the immeasurable excitement to watch this funny little man with his tiny little mustache. The event included a vibrant pre-show prologue titled Ballyhoo, which dazzled the audience with a live performance by Sid Grauman's 3-Ring Circus. Pretty epic stuff. The circus, I feel like, is underrated. We need to bring the circus back. Did it go anywhere? I don't know nothing about the circus. Never been to one. Don't know what it is. Seems cool and the music's funny. While filming the eagerly awaited premiere, the camera not only captured the excited crowds and circus acts, but also focused on a zebra statue outside of the event. This little zebra statue. This little guy. And in this scene, it recorded a woman in a heavy coat strolling past, seemingly engaged in a conversation on a BlackBerry, a phone of some kind. What is she doing? Why is she doing that? Hello? This is before any form of mobile phone. No, hello? I don't even know what phones looked like in 1928. It was probably the little horn thing, the little horn that hello. In today's world, that is completely mundane. It's a totally normal sight to see someone walking around going, hello. Something so ordinary that we wouldn't spare a second glance or thought to that. However, witnessing this in the context of the past leaves many bewildered, scratching their heads in confusion like idiots, like myself. Back in the year 1928, the concept of smartphones or cell phones or any form of mobile phone just didn't exist. Wireless communication was of course thought of thanks to our boy Nikola Tesla, but the idea of that being a widely applicable thing that people just can get at a store, let's just say the Apple Store wasn't around yet. So the question naturally arises, what could this person possibly be holding in their hand, and who were they speaking to? You see, the first cell phone call wasn't made until 1973, when a man by the name of Martin Cooper, an engineer at Motorola, called Joe Engel, the head of Bell Laboratory, which was then owned by AT&T. And this call that Martin made was essentially a troll call to flex on AT&T that Motorola had beaten them into creating the first usable cellular phone.
And I said, "Hi, Joel, it's Marty Cooper." "Hi, Marty," he says. "I'm calling you from a cell phone, but a real cell phone. A personal, handheld, portable cell phone." There was silence at the other end of the line.
Hello? You bitch. All right, I'm gonna listen to the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin because it's popular right now, said Martin in 1973. Mobile phones predate cell phones. You could easily argue that. Sure, Bell Systems mobile telephone service in the 40s is one of the very early iterations of a mobile phone. But still, those were not handheld, and footage displaying them shows them in vehicles because the equipment to utilize them weighed approximately 80 pounds. And I don't see that bitch near that zebra carrying around an 80-pound backpack. The premiere of Charlie Chaplin's The Circus featured someone seemingly talking into a smartphone-sized device, a brick, if you will, spurring the theory that this was in fact a time traveler captured unknowingly on film. And the first cell phone used by Martin to mess with Joel was the size and shape of a toddler's rain boot, which is epic. I wish they would make these pieces of shit the size and shape of a toddler's rain boot. Toddler's Rain Boot, also an excellent name for a band. Comment down below your favorite band names. I've been thinking Frankie has hepatitis B as my new band name. So this woman is potentially the earliest example of a cell phone being captured on camera before its invention, but it isn't the last. In the 1930s, several moments captured on film have time travel theorists raving and ranting. One specifically, after two women, one in 1937 and one in 1938, were recorded while seemingly using technology still decades away from development. The first shows a woman walking among a group of other women in headscarves, a common piece of clothing in European cultures, baba ganoush. Now, while the footage is low quality, low resolution compared to what we have today, it appears as though she is the only woman not wearing a headscarf, with her hair either worn up or wearing a hat of some kind. And that is not what has captivated the nearly 2.5 million people who have viewed the video uploaded to YouTube. It's the hand held near her ear as she speaks into it like she's holding a cell phone. What the f? That's some crazy shit. That shit makes me want to sing like Hugh Jackman.
The winner takes it all.
Now, the second one, like the first one, shows a woman walking among a group of women. Like the first woman, this one is also talking with what appears to be a cell phone held close to her ear. There's also a bit more information circulating about this sighting than the one from the year before. One video sharing this footage claims that it was filmed outside of the Aluminum Company of America plant in Messina, New York in the description of the video, while the others state it was outside of the DuPont factory in Massive 2 Sheds. These are two vastly different locations, but the claim of DuPont comes from a YouTube user that alleged that this was their grandmother, Gertrude Jones, and it was in fact an experimental wireless phone. Somebody called Jeff Gordon. Holy shit. That's a DuPont NASCAR reference. Smash like. I'm from the South. We love going left. Come on now. Come on now. Goosh, 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 goosh. Hey, easy. I don't know what it is about this little Kalashnikov that she doesn't like. Now, this claim, of course, is an unverified claim. And if it were true, this recorded cell phone call would come 35 years before the first verified cell phone call and on a device 1/10 of the size. Now, skipping a few years ahead to 1943, the peak of World War II. This was a big year for time travel theorists, with what looks like two being photographed in public using what also appears to be a cell phone. The first, taken at Towan Beach in Cornwall, shows a man on the beach wearing a full suit looking down at his hands, which are held in a manner all familiar in today's society. He's probably scrolling Instagram Reels and or TikToks, and or watching videos of Jesus appearing into frame using AI while a song that goes like this plays. I got Jesus, I got all that I need. This guy looks like he's looking down at a phone screen. That's what it looks like. It's a sight that might have otherwise been overlooked had the man been in attire more appropriate for the beach, you know, a bathing suit. But the fact that he's wearing a full suit whilst looking down is a combination of weird factors that has drawn the attention of conspiracy theorists, aka troglodytes like myself. This photo gained attention after a colorized version of the image was spotted by Stuart Humphreys back in 2018. Of course, it could just be a shell that the man picked up off the beach that he's looking at, or it could be a cell phone. The same year, however, in Reykjavik, Iceland, a photo was taken that has more conspiracy theorists shouting about the legitimacy of time travel. By the way, it's Reykjavik. I know. I just like making people mad, so they comment. In 1941, during World War II, to block Germany from taking control of Iceland's shipping lanes and airways, the then neutral United States landed troops on the North Atlantic island of Iceland. The occupation of Iceland continued throughout the war, despite Iceland remaining officially neutral the entire time. During this period, a photograph was taken in the southwestern town of Reykjavik showing US forces milling about the street along with local residents, but someone stands out upon closer inspection of a photograph. A suspicious man was photographed leaning against a building, mouth open, as he holds what appears to be a cellular phone to his ear. He's even looking in the direction of the camera as though he just realized he's been caught using a device out of time. Oh crap. I better tell Steve Jobs that I got caught, because he's behind all this shit. One thing interesting about all of this is that these all imply that these are people from our time now, because cell phones are, I assume, gonna be a thing in the past. We already have these stupid Meta AR goggles and like wristwatches and shit in your brain, so whatever timeline they're coming from is a timeline that has time travel, but also cell phones still. So that's kind of odd. Now back to the photograph. There are of course several points people make when trying to debunk these photos and videos. It's an object that simply looks like a cell phone, but it isn't, such as a compact mirror or some kind of early hearing device, something along those lines. There's plenty of reasons to do this or to do this. There's plenty of reasons. And due to the fact that nowadays everyone is constantly on their phone, we're primed to recognize these gestures as phone-related gestures when it could just be anything else. Or it could be evidence of time travel. Time travel's real. Hey. How about time slips? These are really interesting and kind of scary. Imagine accidentally traveling through time and being unable to return. Imagine just thinking the wrong thought, accessing the wrong dark part of your brain that then causes you to slip through some kind of interdimensional travel and end up somewhere where you are not supposed to be. Time travel is currently a concept of science fiction. It's never been done before, it's never been documented, it's never been able to be created and then recreated using a scientific method. It just doesn't exist. Many people cling on to the possibility that it could be a real thing, but it is fantastical, it is imaginative, and it's crazy and very confusing. And it would be epic if it was possible. I would go back in time and I would find a dinosaur, dude. I would just see if they had feathers on them, and I'd be really scared. I have a recurring dream of a T-Rex that puts his head in my window and then tries to bite me and eat me and stuff. And it freaks me out, dude. I've been eaten so many times by T-Rexes, so many times. My parents should have never let me watch Jurassic Park or Jurassic Park when I was a child. Pissed myself. Gonna be real with you. Pissed myself. Don't believe me? I'll get proof.
Yes, sir.
I'm recording a video right now, and I just want to get some corroborating witness that I did in fact piss myself while watching Jurassic Park.
No, that was like a 4 underwear movie for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you changed your underwear multiple times.
It was really scary.
You kept jumping off the couch.
Yeah.
And running into your room and changing your underwear.
Yeah, how old was I, like 14?
No, 22.
Yeah,
No,
22.
I don't know. Well, you're like 4.
4?
4,
Yeah,
5.
something like right in there.
You probably shouldn't have been watching it.
No, I shouldn't have been. I still have nightmares about it.
Yeah, well, parenting at its finest. We'll see.
All right, well, I appreciate it.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thank you, Mom. Have a good rest of your day.
Yep, you too. Bye.
You know, pretty epic. So yeah, the imagination, time travel, it's incredible. Imagination drives innovation and encourages people to do and strive to do things, to build things never before seen. Look at the Wright brothers innovating flight, the Apollo 11 mission, only 66 years after flight. I mean, it's amazing. So if it's possible, it's gonna happen eventually. And theoretically, if it happens eventually, it happens now, because that's how time travel works. You can just kind of go throughout time. So if it ever happens in the future, feasibly it happens, but there's the multiple world. It's confusing. There's a lot of moving parts. Is it possible that technology will eventually advance to the point that we have a machine like John Titor claimed to carry him through time? Who the f knows? But there are also claims that maybe it's possible to accidentally fall through the cracks of time, like I was saying earlier. In scattered pockets across our world, the ironclad laws of time reportedly bend and break. These are places where yesterday bleeds into today and where witnesses stumble through invisible doorways into the past. There are temporal hotspots that share disturbing patterns that suggest time itself may be far more fragile and manipulatable than we believe currently, than we know currently. We've talked about thin places in our Appalachian cryptid videos, and I feel like these two things are shoulder to shoulder, brother to brother. They're adjacent from one another. Weird stuff happens. Weird, unexplainable, undocumentable things definitely happen and have happened for a long time. But for the sake of today's video, on a sunny Saturday afternoon in July 1996, just 1 month before I was born, a retired Merseyside police officer named Frank crossed an invisible threshold that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Walking down Bold Street in Liverpool to meet his wife Carol at Dylan's bookshop, he passed the neoclassical columns of the Lyceum and entered what he described as an oasis of quietness, as if someone had thrown a switch and muted the entire world. Suddenly, a 1950s box van with Kaplan's painted on its side nearly struck him. It was honking frantically as it swerved, trying to avoid hitting the man. The pedestrianized shopping street had transformed into a busy road filled with vintage vehicles, and Dylan's bookshop had vanished, replaced by Cripps, a woman's clothing store displaying handbags and shoes in its window. Everyone around him wore period-accurate clothing, based on what he was seeing for the vehicles. Women were in headscarves and pillbox hats, men in trilbies and long overcoats. Nary a shaved nutsack nor a bald kitty in view. Only one person stood out, a young woman in modern clothes. They would both enter Cripps, and upon entering Frank, our police officer would observe Cripps transform back into Dylan's bookshop. What in the On the Liverpool Then and Now Facebook page, there's a post with pictures of the outside of the building when it was Cripps, and in 2022 where it was vacant, and locals in the replies seem to indicate that Dylan's wasn't there, but rather further down, and Cripps became a place called Waterstones. So whatever happened to Frank is difficult to explain. He was accurate in describing the businesses during his brief trip to the past. Cripps was indeed a woman's shop built in 1848, and even Kaplan's had been a real but seemingly defunct for decades business by 1996 when this happened to him. So there's a bizarre level of fact in regard to the story. But Frank's experience is not a singular one. 10 years later, 19-year-old Sean, a criminal known to police for various petty thefts, had been fleeing security after shoplifting in Liverpool city center, when suddenly he began to feel tightness in his chest after ducking into Brooks Alley. When he emerged from the alley, Hanover Street had transformed. Cars from the 1960s cruised past, people wearing once again period clothing. He walked to a newspaper stand next to the central station, and the date on the front page said that it was Thursday, May 18th, 1967. The story was reportedly corroborated by the security guard who saw Sean vanish, but it is a story that leaves some similar to Frank's. Given the lack of last names provided for those who experience these things, it makes it impossible to genuinely confirm. We just have Frank and Sean. So, there's plenty of Franks and Sean. Who these people, I don't even know. But there's many alleged experiences like this of people slipping through time. And there are especially many in Liverpool. A student named Jane supposedly found herself in what she thought was a Victorian film set after walking down Bold Street with carriages pulled by horses and men in period correct clothing, in an experience that lasted about a minute, so she transported back into the Victorian era, which is crazy. A teenager named Imogene allegedly slipped into the 50s or 60s while shopping for a gift for her sister, only realizing when she tried to check out with a credit card that she was given a weird look, surrounded by people in odd clothing in a shop with prices way too low to be real by today's standards. Tell you what, you go about 35 minutes west of Yellow Springs, West Virginia, they don't use credit cards either. Just saying. On top of all of this, time slips are something that are seemingly documented even back to the very beginning of the 1900s, perhaps inspiring later stories and hoaxes, or potentially showing that it is not so far-fetched as one may believe, and it's something that's happened throughout history. For example, we have the story of two academic women, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, who apparently traveled back in time while on the grounds at the Palace of Versailles during a trip to France. Charlotte was the principal at St. Hugh's College in Oxford, and Jourdain served as her deputy and would later become principal herself. And the two were trying to navigate the grounds after taking a brief tour and opted to take a detour after finding the entrance to the gardens closed. They got lost and tried going down an alley where everything suddenly changed. They both experienced dreariness and disorientation with the world itself feeling and becoming odd. The quote is, "Everything suddenly looked unnatural, therefore unpleasant. Even the trees seemed to become flat and lifeless, like wood worked into tapestry. There were no effects of light and shade, and no wind stirred the trees. For fellow game devs out there, that bitch switched to unlit." So, they saw people wearing clothes from the late 1700s and supposedly even a man whose face was marked by smallpox. They believed that they traveled back to the period right before the French Revolution, which shattered the monarchy in that time, and these folks wrote a book about it called An Adventure. It's far-fetched, obviously, but billions of people around the world believe in the paranormal and supernatural and believe in, Sky Daddy or whatever the people believe in. And there's so many things that people believe in that are just mind-boggling. Demons, spirits, all these things are impossible to prove scientifically, but it's still believable, and having faith in these things helps people and can be objectively good or can be objectively bad. So something like this, I don't know. What's my point? Comment down below. What we do know that's real is that some phenomena we still cannot explain, such as quantum entanglement. Anything in the quantum nature is just not even touched. And there are so many things that are happening or being discovered that could potentially reveal that some of these paranormal or supernatural things are real or misinterpreted things that are purely natural. I don't know. I'm not a smart person. There's a lot of strangeness though. Non-living molecules can become self-replicating organisms, abiogenesis. I mean, there's some bizarre shit out there. So perhaps time travel is real, or perhaps time travel is yet another mystery that we just have yet to solve. There are places where things get a bit weird, we know that. Appalachian area, Sedona, Arizona, both known for their bizarre energy and strange, apparently Liverpool as well. I'm gonna say if time travel ever does become real, we're probably all because there's gonna be a mass exodus from the present, and then just reality itself will come apart at the seams. They better save it for just the rich people, because us poors, we won't know what to do. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Go to sour.gg, go to gump.club to watch uncensored versions of these videos, get some behind the scenes stuff, and watch my podcast with Brandon Buckingham, The Too Late Show. We're back in business, babies. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you guys.